direction that doesn't seem to be coming right now.
Absolutely, Surbi. Many thanks for those details. Now, the stage is set for one of the most coveted business leadership awards of the year, the EY Entrepreneur of the Year Award 2022. Every year, an independent jury comprising of some of India's most eminent business leaders select the finalists and winners of the program. My colleague Shilpa, Ranipeta and Jude Sannith join us from the yellow carpet from the Taj Palace in Delhi. Guys, over to you.
Well, it is no doubt a momentous occasion as we've gathered here to celebrate entrepreneurship and take a look at all the movers and shakers as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. And we've got 11 finalists, one of whom will walk away with a coveted award, and one more, of course, who will walk away with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Before we get any further, let me, bring you Mr. V. Vaidyanathan of IDFC First Bank, who is one of the finalists at the EY Awards. Excited for today? Excited about your prospects and the bank's prospects as well?
Of course, I think our bank is doing wonderfully well. We're very excited for the bank.
Right. What do you think has been the single most deciding factor when it comes to recognizing the work that you've done in the last year or so, Mr. Vaidyanathan?
Well, I think, as you know, a lot of people shape us in our lifetimes, as you know, like from our family, children. Mr. Kamath was a wonderful personality from whom I learned a lot in life. A couple of my teachers who were with me in school are here today. And I just thought of people who might be very happy to see me here today. And I brought a couple of teachers with me.
Right, moving on, I have to ask you, given the way that we're poised as far as the economy is concerned today, what kind of credit demand outlook do you see? Do you think that's going to come from CapEx going forward?
Well, overall, you saw credit demand is pretty strong last year, like upward of 17% or so this year. Things will calm down, but I still think because the underlying factors in India are so strong, and you know all of them, I think we are in for a good cycle in the next 8 or 10 years.
Right. But do you think rising lending rates have really hurt the demand for credit at the time and place we find ourselves in?
You can't see any, at this point of time, you can see the credit numbers are growing upward of 16-17%. But really, I think that the demand in India is so strong that I think these are all a cycle. It'll pass, the demand will live through the cycles.
Right. Do you think margins are also going to be possibly impacted owing to the fact that deposit rates could also see some increase going forward?
Some tapering is to be expected because at least from here on, because deposits are now begun to rise, deposit rates are now begun to rise. I think, but again, we should look through the cycle. We could look at the long term, and these small things about margin change, interest rate hike, these are temporary activities.
Last question before I let you go: what kind of asset quality outlook are we focusing on, and we can expect for 2023? Do you see the loan book, for instance, shaping up?
Well, since you asked me for our bank, asset quality, I can say is looking very, very good. Many people are saying, oh, you're just having a benign cycle. I believe that India structurally gotten better because of India's credit bureaus come of age and all the technologies have come of age. I believe so.
Right. So a benign cycle there, but some structural positivity expected, for the way forward. That's Mr. Vaidyanathan. Meanwhile, let me toss to my colleague Shilpa Ranipeta, who's also standing by at the EY Awards.
Well, thanks, Jude. Truly a star-studded evening if we're talking about the corporate stars of India. And here I have with me one of them, Samina Hamid from Cipla. What a pleasure having you here. So, one of the finalists, what do your prospects look like for today?
I don't know. I'm just happy to be here and humbled by the recognition and looking forward to the evening. Thank you.
Right. One word on the other finalists also. What do you make of the list in the evening today?
So the list is amazing. Everyone is supremely accomplished. And I think in my mind, everyone's a winner tonight.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much and look forward and all the best for the evening. All right, we're still awaiting a few more guests to be coming in onto the yellow carpet. Until that, back to the studio to you, Arundhati.
The action from the G20 summit, but let's go back to Jude, who is there at the EY Entrepreneur of the Year Award. He has a special guest with him. Jude, over to you.
Well, like we have been reporting for the greater part of the evening, we're seeing a stream of finalists making their way to the awards ceremony at the EY Awards 2023. But I have with me now Ms. Nirmal Binda, who's of course joining other people here, all of whom have been recognized for entrepreneurship. Let me get your thoughts about the evening. What does it mean to you to be in the midst of achievers? I know we have a wall of fame in our midst, but certainly celebrating entrepreneurship is something that we find ourselves in the right time and place for.
So I would say entrepreneurship is a risk-taking ability and the positivity. And I was awarded this, this Entrepreneur of the Year for the manufacturing sector about 3 years back. It motivates the entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And in the society, in your own self, that you have done something better than the others.
Mr. Binda, before we move ahead, I just have to ask you, in your opinion, what do you think is the key trait or quality that people need today to be an entrepreneur par excellence?
See, first and foremost is the people development. See, the people are the utmost important. Normally we say that, they are the one who create the organization, they build the organization. They are not reflected in the balance sheet, but they are the one who create the balance sheet.
Right.
So you have to take care of your people, build the talent, attract the talent, make a good team building, and then everything goes on, whether it is market, whether it is competitive benchmarking, whether it is product, technology, all that will follow.
Right.
But you have to be abreast in the market, in the technology at the first notice.
Celebrating people, and that's the key criteria, no doubt. But I have to ask you, at the time and place we find ourselves in, we're seeing pressures from all around, especially with regard to the global economy itself. But going forward, do you see CapEx picking up in terms of the way India has poised itself, in terms of investments, in terms of moving forward in expansion? How is the CapEx outlook like moving forward?
So I think India, we are in, I can talk about our industry as first, but we all know that we are 70% GDP now. With this, I think our per capita is increasing, and then industry will grow. So I'm quite optimistic of the 5 trillion economy. And when it comes, so without investment, we cannot grow.
Absolutely.
So CapEx is definitely required, but we have to be mindful about the return on capital employed, or not only continue to invest CapEx, but which we are very, very careful in our organization.
Last question before I let you go. Supply chain pressures still an existing fly in the ointment as far as manufacturing in India is concerned?
Very much, particularly from the semiconductor in our industry. And of course, the commodity prices has come down a bit, but there are a lot of challenges still exist in the semiconductor, and it will continue to be more for few years.
All right. So pressure for a few more years, that's the word coming in from Mr. Binda. With that, I believe my colleague Shilpa Ranipeta has another guest standing just by.
Well, thanks, Jude. I'm standing by here with Mr. Irfan Razak of the Prestige Group, who also happens to be a finalist. So let's get a few questions in. Firstly, Mr. Razak, what a pleasure having you here. How do you feel, you're amongst the finalists today? How's the evening feeling like for you? What's the vibe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really truly humbled to be in that final list. The theme this year is unstoppable, which is very, very appropriate. Because we've gone through 2 or 3 tumultuous years with COVID and so many other things that have happened around the world. And I believe that India, as a country, is unstoppable.
Right.
And to be amongst those finalists who have reached here, I do wish everyone who's a finalist, I think each one of them deserve to be the Entrepreneur of the Year, without doubt. It's just that finally, it's the final call of the jury, and I'm really, really, truly humbled to have reached here.
Right.
And anyway, good luck to whoever comes to the final spot.
You said unstoppable, and truly how the year has been for Prestige also. It's been quite an unstoppable year, and the 12,000 crore target also, you are well ahead of that, is what you have been talking about. Can you give me a sense that what are we looking at closing this fiscal with?
Yeah, I mean, it's again a focus. It's a solid focus, a belief, and then a proper plan. And I think if we look at the overall picture, we should see that this is our goal.
Right.
This is what we're going to focus on, and this is how we're going to do it. It's like any game or that you play.
Right.
You have to play to win, and I think Prestige, the team, is there to play to win. And that's how we are trying to win this year's target of 12,000. We almost reached very close to it, and I think we should surpass that.
Okay, wonderful. And you had an investor call where you had laid out some ambitious targets. Just if you could quickly run us through that on record for us also here, quickly and what is truly the goalpost that you're looking at?
Yes, we did have an analyst meet in Mumbai just a couple of days ago. And that was just to tell the analysts what we are doing, what the company is looking at, and they were all very, very curious to know what Prestige is up to in Mumbai. Are they really going to succeed? What are the types of projects they are going to do? So we felt it appropriate to have that analyst meet in one of our sites, and that we did that in our Prestige City site in Mulund, and it was truly an eye-opener for them. And we ran through the entire whatever the company is planning, because Prestige is just not a housing company. Prestige does housing. Let's see, many companies in real estate is either doing housing, or is doing retail malls, or is doing office, or is doing hospitality. Correct. But we are one company, or one of the very few companies which are doing all asset classes. So we said, let's at least speak this out. Let's take them, through the walk through the whole journey of what Prestige is up to. And we did set a target for 2026 of a top line of 25,000 crores of sales in housing. We said we'll reach a target of 2,500 crores annuity income in the next 5 years. And we also talked about X amount of keys in hospitality. Right. And we are building another 7 to 8 malls. 2 are already, one is open, one is getting ready and will open in the next couple of months. And but there's a long line of retail malls across the country, and including Bengaluru, that's getting produced.
Right. That's really a long list. But, some brokerages and analysts had raised a few concerns that, maybe this, over this would stretch the balance sheet, and, there could be cash flow issues also, because these are ambitious plans, but for the future, execution will be key. What is your take?
See, I believe that without ambition, there can't be growth. So like your theme today, unstoppables. Similarly, we can't throw caution to the wind. Right. We can't be foolish. And at the same time, we have to have a proper plan. Yes, certain times plans do go a little wrong. But then I think if you plan properly, if you think things out properly, we have got a huge amount of cash flows coming in from our residential business, right, which we can use a part of it for the capex. And we definitely, for capex projects, we definitely need debt. And if you have a healthy mix of 60-40 for debt equity, I don't think there should be any problem whatsoever. Okay. And like very recently, a year ago plus, that we also wanted to lighten our balance sheet, lighten our debt. We did sell some of our assets to Blackstone. See, I always believe whether it's any asset, whether it's residential or office, for that matter, retail or hospitality, the most important thing is to excel. Right. To do whatever you do it well. Right. And reach the goalpost. I mean, without reaching the end, if you're stuck somewhere, then it only gives you agony and more agony, and then a lot of problems come in. Right. But you tighten your belt, you really work hard, and you reach the end. When you reach the end, I think solutions will come. If it's a residential project, certain times some projects sell slow, right, certain times certain projects sell very fast. Right. But I have seen, my experience over the last 40 years is that a residential project, once it's completed, they'll be always takers for it at a particular price, as long as the product is good and the location is good. Right.
So ambition is good, tighten your belt and do your best. That's the word coming in from Mr. Razak. Thank you so much and all the very best. I hope you do win an award, and thank you for joining us here. All right. Thank you, sir. You too. So that was Mr. Irfan Razak for us. I'm tossing back to Jude, who's also here with another guest.
Well, I have with me Deepak Bagla, MD of Invest India, who made a speech not very long ago that went quite viral, where you've talked big about the future optimism that you hope to expect as far as India is concerned. What is it about India at this time and place that makes you want to bet big on this country, investment-wise and purely in terms of opportunity?
So, Jude, you would have seen the statistics. So these are all facts. And it was those facts on which the optimism is based. But if I have to just sum it up in one line, I think it was very beautifully put. We were in Davos earlier this year, and there was a roundtable of financial investors. And this was last year, and there was a roundtable of financial investors. And one of them is wanting to double their exposure to India in the next 24 months. And the other one asked, why are you wanting to do that? He said, because every tomorrow of India is better than today. And I think that sums up the entire momentum which we are witnessing today in India as far as the change is going. And obviously, the opportunity is a no-brainer. And now what has happened in addition to that is the ability to access that opportunity, and most importantly, for people themselves to feel the confidence that they can go ahead and do it.
Absolutely. And there's no better place to acknowledge opportunity than to acknowledge the people who create that opportunity itself. And that brings us to where we are today, Entrepreneur of the Year. I'm sure it must feel good to be in the company of so many stalwarts who have made that possible over the years and continue to do it every passing day.
It's fascinating. They are the story of India. And each of their stories is what India is made up of. And sometimes it's actually overwhelming when you see what they've done, what they've created, and what they've achieved. It's a great feeling.
Absolutely. And going forward, what are you most bullish about as far as the India story is concerned? Where do you think people will look when it comes to India, and what do you think lies ahead?
I think when the Honorable Prime Minister spoke about Amrit Kal, this is that time. The next 9,000 days, and let me give you a little math on that one. 15th August 2047, that's when you turn 100. We'll have an estimated nominal GDP of anywhere between 32 to 35 trillion. That means 90% of India of 15th August 2047 is yet to be made. And that will be done in the next 9,000 years. And that $30 trillion will join the bottom line of each and every partner with us who has joined hands in this journey. Think of that time and think of the opportunity.
Right, you're being bullish, and with good reason, because there is, of course, a whole lot that lies ahead. That was Deepak Bagla talking about the India story and everything that lies ahead. With that, it's back to you.
Well, that's all the action from the EY Entrepreneur Awards, and we will keep going back to Jude and Shilpa as and when they have a special guest with them. But on that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. We'll be back with more news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned.
MCX presents a new cotton futures contract, now available for trading. Refer to circular on mcxindia.com for more details.
Helps beat sensitivity fast. Sensodyne Rapid Relief.
Money Control India FinTech Conclave. Connect, ideate, innovate. Coming soon.
अपने घर और कमर्शियल स्पेसेस को बनाइए अल्ट्रा मॉडर्न, इनोवेटिव, इको फ्रेंडली।
Right, we're back at the EOI Awards, and we have with us yet another finalist who's just about made his entrance, Mr. Sajan Jindal. Great to have you with us here on CNBC-TV18. A momentous occasion, no doubt, more so because you are among the finalists today. How confident are you, really?
It doesn't matter. As long as you make it to this finalist list is good enough.
Right. You know, I have to ask you, Mr. Jindal, we find ourselves today at a place where entrepreneurship has become such a key focus, especially with regard to, you know, how India has thrown the spotlight really on Atmanirbhar, self-reliance, and all that it entails from an Indian context. What do you think is the most compelling Indian story as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, and what is the most compelling quality that you feel an entrepreneur should possess?
You know, I think India as a country is a country of entrepreneurs. You know, the biggest strength of India is that we have millions of entrepreneurs, whether it is a panwala, whether it is a dukanwala, whether it is a taxi driver or a truck owner, to industrialist. And, you know, so India is a country of entrepreneurs, and that's what is great about India. Right. So if you talk about the bright spots, but there are millions and millions of them. There are so many stories that I hear every day that keeps me charged and keeps me motivated. Is all about entrepreneurship in this country.
Right. You know, moving ahead, I have to ask you, in terms of the steel sector itself, where do you expect demand to come from going forward? Do you think those demand drivers remain strong for the outlook in the medium term?
You know, if you look at the whole world today, India is probably the only bright spot. And we are very fortunate that we are part of this bright spot at this time of our generation and stuff like that. So that's the big advantage. And as far as steel demand is concerned, the government of India is spending so much money on infrastructure, spend on development, whether it's the railways, whether it's the highways, whether it's the housing, and everything needs steel. So therefore, steel is growing like crazy, and it's really very heartening to see that India has become the second largest steel consumer and steel producer, and catching up. Of course, the number one is too large, but still we are moving very rapidly up.
Right. But I also have to ask, given the fact that exports from China have not seen as much reduction as they were initially projected, given the fact that the Chinese economy is reopening, things are getting back on track, does that pose some concern for Indian steel players?
No, not at all. Actually, China is, of course, China has this tendency that they tend to dump steel or dump their products into a country and kill their domestic industry, and then after that they tend to increase their prices. This is their traditional style of doing business. Our government is very proactive, and they ensure that whenever these kind of things happen, then they are very quick to implement some sort of restriction, some sort of anti-dumping. So therefore, I'm not concerned about China dumping steel into India.
Moving forward in the capex and expansion front, are we to assume everything is on track? Any changes expected going forward?
For JSW?
Yes, and also for the industry itself.
No, I think I would say that steel industry probably is an industry which is investing the most in capital expenditure. Probably, if you look at the different industries, I think the steel industry has the biggest capital expenditure plan going forward.
Given the Indian scenario itself, which segment do you see will drive the most demand going forward, given the time and place we find ourselves in? It's a bit of an inflection phase. You are seeing, green shoots as far as capex is concerned, as far as, an inflection point really is concerned. Where do you think that the key growth demand driver will lie in the Indian context?
When we were crossing $2 trillion mark as an economy in dollar terms, I thought that was the time when the economy will take off. But now, today, at $3.5 or $3.8 trillion economy, I'm seeing this takeoff happening. And this government is really driving that takeoff thing. It's across the industries, whether it is petrochemical, chemical, steel, cement. Every industry is seeing a double-digit growth. So this is quite phenomenal, including auto.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, in terms of real estate itself, there's been a massive rebound post-COVID, especially on the home sales front. Even commercial developers have been doing rather well. Do you think that with interest rates going up, you can continue to expect some momentum to be maintained there, which will in turn, supplement the demand for steel going forward?
So real estate, of course, is very sensitive to interest rate hikes. I hope that interest rates don't go up that much, which starts to hurt our growth as a country. Because for India, it is more important to grow than to worry about inflation. I know inflation hurts the lower strata of the country, of the people. But still we need growth, because that gives more employment, more jobs. That is more important than worry about too much about inflation. We have to worry about inflation, but it should not be overarching decision that we have to cut the inflation. I think because inflation today in India is mostly imported. It's not only based out of Indian produce. Oil is very high price, gas is very high price. So energy prices are very high, and that's why we see this inflation in India. So therefore, real estate, I feel if the interest rates don't go up, will continue to grow rapidly.
That was Sajid Jindal there, bullish on real estate, but the hope still lies that interest rates don't go up at least more than they have in the recent past. With that, we'll slip into a very short break, but keep staying tuned to CNBC-TV18.